Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Sit Down. We're here with Jay Ezza. What's
Hello,
good, bro?
family.
How you doing?
Yeah, it's just, I told him I'd let them know. It's the third time actually. We had some errors, but it's all love.
It's all
We've
good,
been
man.
talking for a hot minute, but it's been a blessing.
That's the way it's supposed
That's
to be,
it.
bro. Jay Ezza's here. He's a model and a musician as well.
Yeah, musician as well. Yeah.
Anything else we need to add to that list?
No, I'll say model musician. I will say that like the goal at the end is hopefully to be just in line with nature as I kind of see all men being. Herbalist. I'm studying a bit of herbs at the moment.
Yeah.
And just like permaculture, kind of how to look after the earth in regards to it's like permanent agriculture. So looking how to put things into the earth and not solely be thinking about what you're taking from it.
Right.
See what I mean? So that's the next step. Basically.
That's crazy, man. Even that. We're gonna talk about your mantras, the 4 things that you've put forward. Do you know them off the top of your head?
We spoke briefly on the first one, which was water, so we can
Start off with water.
start with water.
So yeah, your first mantra was drink water.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, like for me, the understanding of water is that it's spirit. Because even thinking about it now, like I didn't really mention this, but when you actually think about water, it's colorless, it's essentially odorless, but really that's not true because it has a color and an odor. It's just that we can't pinpoint the odor or color to anything, which shows it stands on its own. Do you see what I mean? And that's the Most High. The Most High is the spirit. You can't compare anything to something that's all knowing. Do you know what I mean? All powerful. And in regards to, like I said, water being 70% of our body, like when I started eating predominantly plant-based, the main reason was because of the fact that these particular fruits or foods contain water. Do you see what I mean? They use water to come into fruition. And even mentioned in the Bible that every herb you would and seed will be meat for you. And meat, we've turned that into poultry. We turned that into physical meat. But really, meat just meant food, sustenance, you know what I mean? So for me, I've just started to see that water embodies everything that is adding to me or allows me to continue my purpose. Do you see what I mean? And to its best ability. And that's what I kind of found with fruits. They're the highest off the ground, which means they're the closest to the heavens, which kind of, this is the reason why a lot of the time I feel like with the Garden of Eden and the apple and just spiritual food and godly food being connected to grapes, all these, you know what I mean? It's all to do with the fact that these are high off the ground. So they're closer to the heavens. It's almost in balance in regards to being spiritual. So yeah, my thing is just that, water, and as I mentioned, sugar, salt. I started seeing that nearly all things that I was defiling myself with were trying to remove water from my body. So high salt, high sugar, smoking, alcohol, and we all know these things dehydrate. Do you know what I mean? And once you start thinking about it spiritually, like someone will look at that word on a scientific level, like, oh, we're just dehydrated. But really what you're saying is that my spirit's getting sucked. Do you know what I mean? And when you think about anything like any sort of liquid on the earth, like when you truly need to get back to balance, like imagine if you stayed drunk. Yeah, no one ever thinks about that because they know they can always come back to water, and that's running back to God. This is how we take the piss out of God. You see what I mean? Like, we know He's good. We know water is the right thing, but we tell ourselves, you know what? Let me go and dehydrate my body because I can always run back to it. Now, what's one of the most scarce things on this planet right now? Water. It's one of the most disrespected things on this planet. We pour our waste into it, even as like urinating, whatever. No other animal urinates into water. None of them. You see what I mean? And the reality is that like I started realizing, I was like, wait, like I'm synonymously seeing with the earth and with our bodies how we just keep disrespecting spirit. Do you know what I mean? Like on all levels, like we know how good, we know it's what keeps us alive. Everyone told, they even put down how important water is in hot conditions, cold conditions, in dry. You need water. You see what I mean? You really need it. You need it. That's what you need water to be alive. So that's a main component of your life.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have that, you will die. Facts. You see what I mean? You don't have a whip, you're right. You don't have them new crepes, you're right. You don't have water, it's long. Do you see what I mean? So this is when really what's happening now. By creating so much, it stopped people focusing on necessities. Now we're blinded by, okay, let me get the new this and new that, whatever. We're not even caring how, if all of what we're producing is destroying water. We're just like, right, like, at least we got this and that. And now it's like, oh, for example, America used to be 8% water. It's now 1%. Yeah. They started wiping out all the beavers and started trying to use their own mindsets. But who made the beavers? The Most High. The perfect builders of dams. They're the ones that dams are all about water control. This is why we build dams now. But they got that from beavers. Like I said, we always look at what the Most High created to make our own counterfeit versions.
Yeah.
So, but by destroying the beavers, you destroy these mechanisms to control water. So now you're getting flash floods, you're getting all this stuff that was never happening. Water was flowing beautifully through your lands before, but it's only if you let his mechanism do it. They're trying to make fake bees now because they wiped out all the bees by wiping out all the trees. Even though bees were there to pollinate, move food around, cause things to come to fruition.
Yeah.
They were needed, but you wiped them out. All these, whenever you see anything in regards to do with extinction, we've done something to the planet that has stopped this life producing. Hunting for ivory and ebony, vanity, things of the physical. But you're wiping out the Most High's creation, which is spirit.
Yeah.
And eventually you're going to wipe yourself out. This is what's happening with man. So my thing with water is, drink water, is that it's always going to at least bring you back to balance. Because the Most High is spirit, and to balance the spirit and the physical, you need the water. You need the water in this amount, the amount that he gave. And yeah, so that's my main thing. Just like in regards to like 70% and our body being 70% water, I mentioned that we're synonymous with the earth. The more you dehydrate, you see how lands are getting barren.
Yeah.
You see all over the earth is, what would they call it? Droughts. What's a drought? It's a removal of water.
Yeah.
So when you get dry mouth, it's the same thing. It's just the fact that your body's letting you know that, look, you're out of balance right now. Get that water in so we can get back to balance.
Yeah.
And think about what happens when you get dehydrated, especially with alcohol.
Yeah.
Confusion. Remember what I said, spirit is ordered. So confusion with a lack of water brings what? Confusion. Do you see what I mean? So now what's happening is that people who are drunk, they're not even performing the process of like walking straight anymore because of they're confused. This is confused. They can't even control this because this is gone.
Yeah.
And this is when you realize this is the battery and this is powered by water. So I've just found like me, because I've fully abused my body. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I sit down, like I just started being honest with myself and started listening and started being like, okay, cool. What's actually happening? Not like, oh, like because I'm upset on what I want to feel. Nah, like what's actually happening right now? Raw, like I keep doing things that remove water from my body. That's the only way I feel better, which means that I only feel better when I'm destroying myself. That means I don't love myself. You see what I mean? And that's what it all comes down to. I mean, like it's just, we don't realize it's a self-love thing. Like we mentioned about the police thing. You're focused on the external, but the reality is that if you love yourself, you just want to put yourself in situations that mess you up. The reality is that I've recognized that what we don't realize is that the reason why they are a problem is because they set up the problem. That's the whole thing. It's like, I'm not saying that, like, that's why I said to you with the whole drug thing or whatever. It's like, bro, how can I tell you, man, not to do that when I know you're doing it? Like, even if vanity does come in to it at some point, I know you're actually doing this because you need to. Do you know what I mean? We are finding situations now where we don't need to, but I think what's happened now is that this desire for the black man to want to shine is an innate desire to come back to his God level. I'm telling you, because the second they'll get money, the first thing they're doing is getting whips, getting chains. No one's thinking about necessities. Do you know what I mean? You get them one or two ones that'll be like the yard, And this is what I mean, that's only on a basic level, because if we're going to real necessities, a yard ain't gonna keep you alive. Do you see what I mean? But that's when you get deep into the true spirit of what this life's actually about. Because the Bible actually mentions that don't basically pile up things that rust. So essentially, don't pile up things that are physical, because they're gonna come to nothing anyway. Don't put that too much on the forefront of your mind. And when you're chilling with truly, you have really good energy around you. It's like, that's the purest thing. Even if you're in some dead basement, but you got the purest energy around you, you're always gonna catch a vibe, and that's what's gonna bring enjoyment. Do you know what I mean? But man think, oh, I've got to be in, well, I don't know, these restaurants like Nobu or something. You could be with some girl that stresses you, but you're just focused on the physicality, forgetting that will die. She ain't gonna be like that forever. Do you know what I mean? But when you get to the mindset, that's gonna stay with you till you die. Do you see what I mean? And we're all caught up in it. It's like, this is what I feel what we're seeing, what's shown to us on telly, is what's plaguing us. And that's what I said, it's generational. Because we look at the older ones or the people that are above us and like, wow, we want to be like you guys. But all you guys showed us because of your situation, not blaming you, but you never fought against the physical. You never showed us that it wasn't about cars and money. You never did that. And all of yous are still in that right now. So how are we gonna drop everything that our oppressors throwing on us if yous are winning off it? Do you see what I mean? And you're not even trying to create a situation where it looks like, okay, we're actually in, like, we're moving towards spiritual gifts, real things that power us. Because when you're playing the money game, you're never ever gonna beat the man who created money. I used to be a gambling addict, yeah, like bad. And I always thought, one day I'm gonna beat the house. When I truly accepted that, oh, you know what? How can I beat the creator? He created that world. You're not winning. The same way the creator, the Most High, you can try everything you want. You go against his purpose for your life, which is to fall in line with his laws, you've lost because he created this. I don't care how clever you think you're getting. Do you know what I mean? And that's what's happening with man. These men think with their gadgets and all that. Listen, they're going to be so bamboozled when it all gets wiped out. Because even what they're doing is wiping out their own life. And that's why they're trying to change us to hybrids with all these inclusions of genetically modified foods. They're letting you know, if you change the things that power you, the genetics of it, you don't think it's going to change your genetics? Or is it even going to work for you? You see what I mean? It's alien to your body because you've changed the genetics. That's not how he made it. Like, it's like changing water to Coke and think it's going to do the same thing in your body. No. Do you see what I'm saying? You can't change that. You need to keep things as they were to get the true benefit of it.
Yeah.
And just to add to that, I've realized that water it goes in cycles and always levels out as well. And you got to remember that, you know, the only time you feel is when you go against the cycle. That's what, like, friction is. That's when you only get friction if you go against each other. You see what I mean? And what does friction produce? Heat. Another thing that dehydrates. Do you see what I mean? And I started realizing in the outside world, that's called climate change. But inside us, they call it inflammation. You see what I mean? It's all to do with a rise in heat because it's gone against the, what do they call the resting body temperature or the room temperature? Do you know what I mean? Which would be like 32 or 37, something like that. But the whole
body 37.
37, body's 37, yeah. So the whole thing is like, it's just a rise in heat. Because a rise in heat is going to cause what? Chars, burns places. And burns could get to flames, which ends up completely getting wiped out. And this is what you see with cancers and stuff like that. It's because when something's continuously inflamed, it gets engulfed, wiped out. And that's why you see them houses that are charred. There's things that get little burns, little scrapes. You have a little burn on your skin or whatever. Some of them you can brush off as a little inflammation. When you get that true inflammation, it's engulfed. And that's basically what's happening. You're seeing a rise in heat, even in California right now. Flames everywhere. You see what I mean? And it's because that stuff can only happen when something's dry. What did they tell you when they're out camping with wood? You can't start fire with wet wood because spirit's in it. So spirit's protecting it. But if that thing's gone, it's bone dry, it's even easier to get that to Do you know what I mean? Get that to go inflamed.
Yeah.
Everything's about spirit. And that's when I realized that water, just to round it all off anyway, the whole thing with water for me is that water is 100% spirit because it can't be explained. The Most High can't be explained.
And yeah, bro, like, I agree with that, bro. I feel like water is mad important. Necessary in every sense of the word. The world is what? 80% water, 70% water?
70% water, yeah.
We're 70% water. And yeah, like, it's that understanding. To understand that is something that allows everyone to move forward and to be productive in whatever sense they are. Because, bro, I've been times where, like, you know, I'll be in my room, I'm chilling, I haven't drank water today, and you're feeling tired, and you're like, wait, I just woke up. Like, I woke up like a couple hours ago. Why am I so tired? And then you deep, my body's not really functioning because there's no water in it. So yeah, bro, and I'm sure the people who are listening understand that and get it as well.
Who enticed you though?
What do you mean?
Just what you gotta remember. How did you come into a world where something other than what you were meant to drink was there? Water was all that was there originally. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So when you look at, like, for example, you say you haven't drank water. Like, right now I'm drinking this. But it's like, the reality is that even the fact that we have this, a man created this to take this, which was naturally occurring, to sell it back to me. You see what I'm saying? So, but with the other drinks, they've done it with, like, the Cokes, whatever, and this is what we would drink because it stimulates. It actually causes friction. Because these are why they tell you not to drink too many fizzy drinks. It actually inflames your body. So we drink it because we hate ourselves. That's the truth. Because it feels good, but it's not good for us. And when I say that, people like
don't take it the wrong way.
Yeah,
basically.
No, I'm being honest.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that it's not saying that, like, I'm clearly drinking one. What I'm saying is that it's not to abuse your body. It's like these things should be occasions. You see what I mean? And what happens though, because we're in states where we hate ourselves perpetually because our situation isn't changing. We need these to uplift ourselves every day. You know what I mean? Because every day it's like, I gotta wake up and do the same stuff because my situation ain't changed. So when I say I'm being real, like, this is what we're in.
Right.
But what it is that I'm more focused on now is that the more I've been real with myself is that you realize how much you've hated yourself this whole time, but unknowingly.
Right.
Then you start realizing, wait, if that wasn't the nature to hate myself as love is a growing spirit, it's normal. Who taught me this? That's when you start looking at, you start going back in history. And I mentioned, like, with a doctor, you always go to their medical history. You always go to your medical history to even know what to give you, just in case he gives you anything that goes against the way your body functions.
Yeah.
But he already knows that if he goes back. We have to go back mentally to remember because we're in an altered state. Things wasn't like, it's like coming into a room and, like, it's been painted by someone, but you back in 20 years ago it was white. But now you come into a room, it's been painted, or it's being used for something else. You would never know the nature of how its original form, unless the person who changed it told you.
Right.
So the same way, I've kind of started to realize that as you go back, the more understanding you get. This is why people like to go back in history to help them understand the present time. Do you know what I mean? So, and that's basically what I'm saying is that need for water is so essential because it really is remembrance. It's what was. It's what always is. Was 70% water. That's what lets you know you came into the world with that. Do you see what I mean? That's the first thing. So, seeing these fizzy drinks, you gotta remember someone gave this to you, and they gave this to you for a reason, to retain something from you. Control. Because they own the money, they keep you in a system of money, and they keep you dying. You're dying on every level. Yeah. But in the true realm where we were meant to dwell, the physical realm, where money isn't the deciding factor, let's go down to strength in regards to melanin and the embodiment of spirit or light, being able to take in light. Even when you go into different races, for example, for an Caucasians would need an hour a day to get their recommended vitamin D allowance. We would need 8. So just during lunchtime, they could collect their recommended vitamin D. We would need a much longer time with exposure to the sun because of the fact we have protection. So it's less is absorbed. So it's almost absorbed over a period of time. It's not intense.
Right.
This is why we don't get burnt.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So the whole thing is that it's all about the fact that nature has a process. And you got to remember, even when you're cooking, fast food is usually what's bad for you, and that's cooked quick. Slow cooked meals like the bone broths, the stews, they call them hearty meals because of the fact that they really do a lot for the internal. You see what I mean? But this fast food where's it go? It goes straight through your body. It fulfills a feeling, but doesn't fulfill your spirit. So you will be continuously eating this stuff without satisfaction because you haven't given your body what it's needed, and it needs spirit.
Yeah.
So this is why I will always go back to water being 100%. That's the main thing I drink now, and I even drinking that. I'm more drinkless for this interview.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm drinking it when I go to bed, before I go to bed and stuff. But it's like, yeah, it's just you gotta recognize that we've turned kind of pleasure into normality, and gotta recognize that now pleasure is our normality. Like they talk about Sin City or whatever. It's just like, this isn't how it was meant to be.
Right.
We're so far from purpose.
And you've touched upon that understanding, which brings us on to your second mantra, which is to be understanding. And where I didn't know you previous to today, but I assume you talking about you learning all these things, all these different processes, the natural order. At some point, you didn't know these things.
Exactly.
You weren't privy to these things, and you've read up, you've learned, and now you're understanding these things.
Yeah.
But I feel like be understanding is much more broader than just this specific thing.
100%.
Hit us with it, man.
So yeah, when I say be understanding, it's so funny. I more say it on a sense of understand people and understand their situations. Like I mentioned about the drug situation and our community. Just because I say the truth doesn't mean I don't understand why they do it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I understand why people rob and like, do you know what I mean? I'm from end, do you know what I mean? I understand. But it doesn't mean that with understanding, it just gives you the knowledge. Now you've got to use the knowledge. Do you see what I mean? So, and I still don't judge them because I feel all the time like I'm not out of this system. A lot of the time, my mindset feels like I am out of it.
Yeah.
Which is quite interesting with my job because my job's so based on my physical. I have so much time to lose my mind, which is not a privilege that so many people get. This is why I mentioned be understanding. When I always look at my situation, I think to myself, I'm like, I can sit on set 8 hours and be pondering on all sorts of madness and just be hearing click, just using my body because that's what they booked me for. Right. They didn't book me to hear my view. Do you know what I mean? They booked me to wear some garms. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but there might be my bro who has to go into work as a receptionist, and he's got to remember this person called and that person called. So now your mindset's filled with all this workplaces and their stuff that's building them. It's got nothing to do with you. Like, your mindset is all based on what's going on in their life.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being an employee, but that's the reality of what goes on.
Yeah.
So this is why I learned to be understanding, because there'll be times you use your situation, people be like, work harder. Do you know what I mean? They'll be like, and essentially that's true. But the reality is that you had your dad in your life. He didn't though. So you even having that balance of energy, you don't know that you're actually more made up than he is. He's broken because he's not complete. And you're asking him to act like a complete person when he never even experienced that energy. So this is why I say be understanding, because I've started to realize, because I've done a lot of like what I would say some people will consider, it's not that deep, but just hurting people generally is what taught me a lot about understanding. And I mean, even down to how we treat women, because like when I mentioned, like woman is like Mother Earth. We call the mother is the female. You know what I mean? And male is the spirit, and male carries the seed, which is the spirit, pours it into the female bears fruit. That's what we see in the world. It's the same thing with the man. We pour the seed into the woman, she incubates it. 9 months later, in nature's time, she gives full fruits. You see what I mean? So I started realizing that the male spirit is all about pouring into. It's literally like a plug in a socket.
Yeah.
This is why men and women never understand each other, because what they do is try and make man like women and women like men. Like, we're not meant to, like, the only understanding we're meant to have is our duties for each other.
Right.
Like, the plug isn't trying to understand, like, okay, why you got 3 holes in you and why have I got 3 things coming out? Do you know what I mean? It's just like, okay, I take in energy and I push out energy. So, as a man, and remember, spirit came first. This is why the Bible always refers to men in regards to the first order. It's not because we're higher up. It's because that's the mechanism he used to pour the seed out. It's just the order of nature. But the only way both parties, because they are part of us. Do you know what I mean? Even biblically, it says that he took woman from man, from the rib of man. They're us. It's literally a separation because of the fact that the heavens and the earth are separated. You needed the man and the woman. So now that's us on the physical plane. Right. But we can bring heaven here if we bring that unity of law and love. Do you see what I mean? So men have a duty to pour out and not on an emotional level. Like, we need to stop thinking of men as how we see things now. Think of man as an actual male and female. What their processes do to continue the system of life. Because that's when you'll get the beautiful fruits. But people are so focused on the fruits, they forgot the recipe. They forgot the actual, the sowing bit.
Cool.
So, and I learned that from hurting people. Because when I realized, I was like, oh, like, I didn't know that wasn't what pouring into you was. Because that's all I saw in society. This is what man them do, isn't it? This is what we do. Like, so I'm thinking, no one told me how to love a woman. No one told me how to understand women. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've got experience here. And I can only look at what the man them have shown me. Right. What men have shown me. Do you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, some people grow up with more understanding than others. And I feel like the reason why women understand is because they're physical. When you harm the earth, before the spirit starts to respond like he is now, he lets the earth get beaten up for a bit. Like, we've destroyed this thing, we've wiped out this, we're still here. But what eventually happens is that the spirit has to speak up for the earth, or it's gonna die. Do you see what I mean? And that's what's happening now. When you see the rise in feminism, that's the spirit speaking up for the earth, because now that spirit is coming to women, where they realize that the same way the earth will start fighting back, like it's happening now, when it's yearning for spirit to fill it, it actually has to take in the true spirit of the Most High and start telling man, look, you're hurting us, and as a result, we're turning on you. What's the earth doing to us? It's wiping out cities because we're not listening to it. You see what I mean? Them wildfires in California, there's so much wickedness going on in that place. I lived there for a year. There's so much wickedness going on in that place. They're the hub of Hollywood. The hub. You're the hub of evil. And when I say evil, the propaganda that you're throwing out, because, like I said, we can't see anything unless it's in our reality. You can't think of another colour that you've never seen before. So if you're getting hit with this on Netflix and all this stuff, and you're suddenly being like, rah, like, I swear I saw that on Black Mirror. Yeah, they manifested it. Because by you seeing it, you're God. Anything you see, push out, you create. So this is why people are like, rah, how are we in these situations? And the same people that showed you it create these situations. The funny thing is, you know, like with films, and you see like a woman, she might be sad, going through a relationship, and she's eating like ice cream, everything that's high in sugar. What sugar does, like I said, it causes friction because it goes against the flow. It slows down the body. And there's actually a condition, and the fact that it hasn't actually got what you need, because it's just a filler, it makes you feel good for the moment. But it doesn't actually carry anything good for you. So that means eventually, once that feeling's gone, what does everyone get with drugs? Downers. Do you know what I mean? Or just depression. Do you see what I mean? That's very big in society right now with mental health. So with them films, I realised, I was like, all right, okay, cool. They keep telling people by putting these in films, this is what a girl does when she's had a heartbreak. Now people find it normal to be like, what do we do when we go through these moments of sadness? Well, I saw this girl in this film eat loads of ice cream on her bed.
Right.
And people don't wonder why, like, rappers don't know why they want whips and cups. They don't know why they actually want these things. They don't know why they're attracted to it. But it's because they were shown by their oppressor, this is the attractive thing to have.
Right.
But they haven't got spirit in them to realize, okay, cool. Like, this is fulfillment because everything about them is flesh. Remember, spirit needs to be in you to show love. But if you've already enslaved, you've gone against nature, that means you wanted something. That's physical. You wanted something in the physical. So there was a reason you've done this for gain. So now you're showing them you're showing the spiritual beings what physical gain is. And they're chasing after that and wondering why they're never fulfilled. You can only be fulfilled if you put what is meant for you. You're spiritual. The only thing that's going to make you fulfilled is when you're in spirit. So it's not about going and building another a black city that's just like New York. New York all these cities are destroying the planet with what they're producing. We're not meant to envy our oppressors. That's what the Bible says. Our spiritual ways, he said, blessed are the peacemakers. Not blessed are the people that start businesses that make their people poor. Blessed are the peacemakers. Because that's what's going to truly give you peace. Like if I drop dead tomorrow, God forbid, I'm not taking this peace. What is there a Bitcoin thing that I can take with me to do what with? Because nothing exists that we created there.
Yeah.
So this is what we need to deep. It's like what we're desiring as kings and queens. Like I said, our desire to go back for the chains and the grills and all the money. We were shown that by them, and we've put them on ourselves as these are the things that are the go-tos.
Right.
But Christ kept preaching like, don't store up treasures that rust. Store up treasures in heaven, treasures in the spirit. Because pureness there is the key. Everyone's doing what they're doing for a pure mind. You want your mum, you want to get off out the ends to give your mum peace of mind. Everyone says, I don't want mumsy to stress. So everything you know that you're doing is for peace of mind. So if you can get that without all of that, why don't you just go for that? And that's me not being understanding, saying it like that. And I did that on purpose because the whole reason I'm trying to say is that if I just say that to people, like, just leave that. They can't go out and sustain themselves out there.
Yeah.
There ain't just food lying about because food's enslaved. So this is why I always say, be understanding. Because the reality is that you might be in a better situation. But the reality is that you've been given any situation you've been given, you don't even know yet. It's for you to go and bless someone else because energy is transferred. That's what it's there for. So when you constantly keep adding to yourself, you realize you end up bigger, which goes against your health, which is wealth. So you actually lose money when you gain physical money. You lose true wealth because even a sign of wealth in the African is being big. That's what a sign of wealth is. But really what it's saying is that gluttony is where your wealth is, greed. That's not our nature. We learned that nature. Our nature is to be in line with the earth. Everything we created goes against our nature. So this is why I would always say, like, you have to be understanding, because now I look at the state of the world, me constantly demonizing you for being the person you are, I'm almost adding that same spirit that brings you lower.
Yeah.
I can't do that. Like, that's not love, because I know I wouldn't want that. And he says to show true love, love your neighbor as yourself. And that's why I understand people too much. Some people say maybe it can be too much, but I sit there and I think, when I look at the wickedness I've done on this earth, like and when I say that, that's completely relative. Like I feel gambling's wicked. I feel just beating myself up is wicked. Cheating's wicked. Do you know what I mean? My whole thing is like, when I think about stuff like that, I sit and I tell myself, you know what? I'm blessed, because knowing full well that I would hate certain things to feel the certain thing, feel that same energy that I gave to certain people, or even if I've done things that like to like anything, like killed animals, you know what I mean? Like just stuff like, I would hate that to be done to me.
Right.
And the fact that I'm still here is just grace. So the fact that I've been given grace, I can only give the next man grace if I truly love him, because I love myself. You see what I mean? I've got to treat you as I would want to be treated. That's love. So yeah, that's my answer. Yeah.
Well put as well. Well put. That nicely puts us onto your third mantra, which is,
I don't even know what it is, you know.
If you can help, help.
Okay.
Yeah, you've put across, you know, love yourself, love others as you love yourself,
Sure.
which is the golden rule.
Facts.
In Christianity, or in the Bible even.
The Bible.
Medea. And yeah, and you've put this down as something that is important to you. So tell us, like, why is it something that is important to your living, especially somebody who is a musician and a model in that industry? It's a, you know, it's a cutthroat industry, really.
Yeah.
And you know, having a mentality like that can be seen as a weakness, but you've taken this as a strength. You've taken this as something that is, you know, something that you feel has to be put out there. So hit us, why is that such a thing?
Yeah, just to touch on what you said as well, like, I'm fully caught up. This is the reason why I would always advise help. Like right now, we're all doing our own form of Babylonian work. Do you know what I mean? I'm modeling, enticing people to buy into clothes, and do you know what I mean? I'm playing the game as well. But the key thing is that if your desire is not to play the game, what would life look like? Because right now there might be people playing tennis, trapping. Like everyone's got their hustle because they've got to survive. Do you know what I mean? But it just shows that all of us are doing something against our nature to survive,
Right.
which is going to cause some sort of detriment into the earth. I'm enticing people to spend more money, so they got to gain more money, and they might do that by trapping. You know what I mean? So the way I see it is like, yeah, my thing is it's just like I'm starting to see that the cycles we've kind of put on ourselves, and just we're basically all wounded. So when I say help others, it's not just people think too much on a physical sense as well. Right. I'm saying on all levels, it's like giving someone time is helping them, because I'll tell you an interesting story actually, which happened not too long ago, and this one really made me realize, like, this gave me a bigger feeling than any kind of money job I booked, or do you know what I mean? And this is what made me realize that energy is transfer. This is why help is so necessary. If you can give it, give it. And it's easier said than done, I'm not gonna lie. But the reason why I've tried my best to try and practice it as of recent, it's not for any form of gain, but for just the sheer fact that when I see how someone feels when they're helped unknowingly, the joy it gives me, because I remember times where I remember, I'll tell you a mad situation. I was gambling, and literally, this is how bad I was in it. Like my last P to get yard, I was like, let me see if I can spin this. like I was playing roulette. I got sucked. And I remember sitting there thinking, look, if someone just, no one knows me, we're not friends here, like, I beg someone just give me some peas. Like, I messed up in it. Like I shouldn't have done that. I know I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
I might go and do it again tomorrow.
Right.
I know I shouldn't have done it though. Yeah. But just help me. Do you know what I mean? And that's how, when I look at situations and I see people, I think a lot of people have ego, which stops them crying out for help. I've definitely been one of them. I'll be real. But the reality is that everyone needs help. Because I know from looking at the state of this world that if you're an inhabitant of this world, you're broken to some degree. Because this world is not in a perfect nature, so we can't be in a perfect nature. So that's why I always say help. Like, if you can give help, give it. Because back, I didn't even finish that story, but I went out one Sunday to Brick Lane, and I just ended up going. It was just a proper, like, interesting day. Like, I ran by this guy in a store, and he was selling like Ghanaian clothes, and it's kind of mad. Like he just had one of these like dashiki type things. So I was like, I was just that day I was just doing me. I don't know. Like, I was just walking. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna buy it. And I just put it on straight away. Like, I don't do things like that, but I just thought, you know what, we had a little chat. I just put it on straight away. I walked through to, this is Sunday, so that we've got Brick Lane Market. So I picked up like a roti, some vegan roti, it was calm. And when I saw this two Nigerian men on a churro store, and I'm chilling. And we just ended up talking like 2.5 hours about just like what's going on in the world right now. They were big into the Bible, whatever. It was just interesting because it was like I was just being led to these people. Like, I could have been at any store, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But after the convo anyway, I walked back and I see this man sitting outside Spitalfields. And I saw him, I was like, and I think I was so pumped from that conversation that my spirit was lifted, that the physical didn't matter to me. And I was like, bro, like, you hungry? And he was like, yeah, man. I was like, what do you want? He's like, oh, anything. And even when he said anything, that was another added sort of purity moment for me, because he was just happy with any help.
Right.
Which made me have more of a desire to give him even more of what he wanted.
Right.
So I went in there and I was like, you know what? I'm going to pick the nicest thing and get him that.
Right.
So I saw like this spot called Bleecker Street Burger. I don't know if you heard of it.
I don't think I have.
Yeah. So it's quite like a kind of a posh burger and chips. It's not like your standard like chicken, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Not your chicken cottage.
Yeah. See what I mean? So I saw it and I was like, oh, you know what? I would love it. In my head, I was actually thinking, I would love it if someone did this for me. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to do it. Yeah. And to be honest, I didn't even think about it this much. It was kind of more calm. I was in a really good spirit that I didn't, like I said, I wasn't really thinking about money. Like, I was just thinking, oh, it'd be nice to see him in the same spirit I'm feeling. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've ordered it now and I'm sitting there and I'm just looking, just waiting around. I kid you not, this guy, he runs up to me, taps my shoulder. I'm like, and it's just like, this guy, he would even define himself as a crackhead, yeah. But he tapped me and I'm like, okay, cool, that's interesting. That. He's like, yo, were you eating this, yeah? And I was like, nah, like, I'm actually getting it for someone. And he's like, oh man, you need to help your people. And I froze. I was like, what? Like, firstly, the guy I was getting it for is outside Spitalfields. This guy's tapped me inside Spitalfields, so you can't see this man. Yeah. The guy was like a mixed race guy. The guy outside was white. So when he said it, for me, yeah, I think a bit too much. Because I was like, what does he mean? Like, instantly, I was like, why did he say my people? They said, you need to help your people, not help people. Help your people. And I was like, but I don't know why it hit my brain deeper, because I was listening. Like, every word he said meant something. Right. I didn't just see it as, oh, you need to help people. I just said, why did he say your people? Do you know what I mean? Like, that hit me. And I was like, bro, what do you mean? And I said, so I told him, I was like, what do you mean? Like, he's like, you need to help your people. And I was like, bro, do you want a burger? Yeah. And he was like, yeah, man. I was like, do you want chips? So he's like, no, just give me the burger. And I was like, cool. Then he started speaking. I started listening again. And I was like, you know what, let me just listen to him. And by like 5-10 minutes in, I was just like laughing. I just kept saying, but facts. I just remember being like, everything he was saying was so real. But it made me realize that what happens with man, when you're so focused on the physical, you would look at this guy and think he's lost it. You'd think he's mad. Yeah. And I sat and I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, bro, you've not said one word of a lie yet. Yeah. Then there was this guy behind me who was very conservative on his phone. This is just really happened. Behind me, he's just there and he's like, see, look, and he's like, oh, you see this guy behind me? The reality is that everything I'm saying, he knows is true. But if he takes it from someone who looks like me and it completely messes up his reality, yeah, he's that's gonna hurt him. So for him, he has to kind of tell himself that he's crazy. Yeah. But even though he knows he's hearing the truth. Yeah. But if he addresses that, his whole reality changes. Right. So it's just headphones in, just act like her, the crazy guy. Yeah. But I was sitting there listening, and I couldn't stop laughing because I was like, oh my gosh, bro, you're not lying about anything. I don't care what you look like. I don't care what people call you. This is the truth.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's when I was like, you know what? And at that point, see, the story wasn't actually about the help. It was actually the fact that when he actually asked me what he asked me, I thought you feel like the blessing is, oh, okay, I've given this guy money. But he gave me deep understanding just because I listened to him. But I wouldn't have been able to listen to him unless I was there to help him.
Right.
Do you see what I mean? And when that understanding he gave me changed my whole life, because like I even mentioned about the platform, is that I had a platform called Reels Talk, which I couldn't really grasp. This is why I said this is such a beautiful setup what you've got here, like, and I respect it, because
Thank you.
I haven't been able to manifest that. And you know what I mean? So when I see it manifested, it's not about the understanding that I have. It's about that you've actually put it into fruition. You can have the idea in your head, but you've made it happen. And that's why I said it's such a blessing. It doesn't matter what I can explain. Do you know what I mean? Explanations is just information. It's what you put into practice. That's the true essence of what spirit's meant to do. That's why I said to you, when I saw this, it was just like, this is a blessing to see, man, honestly, like, because you're living it. You don't know what you're doing yet, but it's deeply, like, this is work. This is true spiritual work. The fact that your desire is even to bring enriching content. You're not bringing fast food. You're bringing the lentils, you know what I mean? You're bringing the beans, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing, but yeah, that whole story anyway. Oh yeah, this is what ended up happening. So he started telling me about his life and that he wanted to quit. And I was like, bro, and he was like, bro, I'm gonna stop because something happened to a family member of his who didn't quit. And he was like, look, bro, I'm gonna stop. And I said, bro, you're gonna stop. Like, and what I didn't realize is that we said it. When you claim it and believe it, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So even though he may have been taking the steps, 2 weeks later, I took his number. I went round, gave the food, whatever. I went yard. 2 weeks later, he gave me his number. He gave me his number on the day. 2 weeks later, I was like, you know what? I should really shout this brother. But fear came over me. I started really hearing myself. I was like, you know what? That was a good moment and all that, but he's a crackhead. My physical came in again, and I was like, but like, if he's not in his right mind, he could be dangerous. All the fears came in. I was like, maybe I shouldn't holler at him. But something in me was like, you know what? If I was in that state and I knew I needed help, I would want someone to holler at me. So I was like, let me holler at him. A week later, he didn't respond. So at that time, it was kind of like, do you know what I mean? At least I've done it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Off your
I've
chest
done it.
that.
Like, it was off my chest. And it just made me feel a bit more at peace. A week later, he calls me. I'm in the gym. I remember I was bench pressing. I was like, let me put this down, pick up the call. I'm like, yo. He's like, yo. I was like, yo, who's this? And he's like, you got 2 guesses. And you know how you know how bold they are. They're proper like just themselves. He's like, you got 2 guesses. I'm like, bro, this is crazy. And he was like, yeah, bro, like, how you? I was like, bro, I'm blessed. I was like, how you been? And he's like, bro, you never guessed it. Like, I've started the rehab. I'm like, no. Like, bro, honestly, at that point, bro, I didn't think about nothing. I was like, bro, he's actually getting right. Do you know what I mean? And like, for me, that was like, this is why anything we're meant to be doing is meant to be done for. When like that lift it gave me was like, you know what? It made me feel fearless, because I was like, I was shook of the energy, even the way people were looking at me being around him. Do you know what I mean? All of it was bringing elements of fear, but I was like, he's not trying shit though. I can't act like he's wrong just to please these man.
Yeah.
So, but at that point, it was almost like a quick turnaround in faith. Like, anything in the spirit is it's a much slower process. Just to say, like I said, with the food, it's slow cooked food that gives that real nourishing food. But it's like, nature has an order. It might take, you can't force the sun to go around, because you can't touch that. If you could play that, they probably would.
Yeah.
They might be doing some geoengineering or something.
Yeah.
You never know these like right now. But the whole thing is that nature has an order. And when I realized that, okay, cool, I might not have seen the benefits of that on the day, but 3-4 weeks later, just seeing that he was in a better space, which meant that any energy he felt from the energy who gave him that he's going to put that into someone else.
Right.
That's what we're trying to do right now.
Yes.
And I've realized it's not done by just expressing words. I had to live that. I had to really experience the fear of being looked at a certain way by people around me, people in the physical.
Right.
Knowing true well that spiritually, mentally, he was right. I don't care if you're a banker or you've gone to Harvard. What he's saying, you can't deny that. But you're only denying it because if you accept what someone who doesn't appear to look like what your construct looks like as an intellectual, if you take that information, you're a fool. And that's why I was like, you know what? When I saw that he was getting right, I was like, that is what the whole essence of anything we put out in this world is meant to do. It's not meant to just make people physically rich. That was spiritual wealth. Do you know what I mean? And why I say that is because he's now gained spirit and I've gained spirit. We can now go and move on with these things we've exchanged from each other because energy is always transferred, and go and fill each other with that energy we've learned from each other and the added energy we already had. It's a top up. You don't lose anything. And that's when I was like, you know what? Help people, man, because I've needed help. When I've been given it, sometimes I've thrown it back in people's faces out of immaturity, and that's because I haven't had time to dwell in that spirit. It's like water isn't going to stay in you if it doesn't have the mechanism to stay in you because it's been destroyed over time. It's going to take time for water to understand your body again. When people come out of fasting or certain foods, the doctor will tell them, okay, you got to ease food back into your system again. Start with these ones that are more water soluble. Then it will gain the strength. It's the same thing with mental maturity. You can tell me something like, and I'll hear you. Doesn't mean it's me yet. I just heard you. I might need to hear it like 50 times, and I'm like, oh, I get it. And then that's still the second stage, because now you can't unknow it. Now the next step is, okay, I've got to put this into fruition, but how? And the only way you're going to learn how is when you learn intention. Because if your intention with this information isn't to grow things, you're just going to do even more damage, because you're going to knowingly be causing evil. And that's why I feel a lot of what we're doing in ends, you have to ask yourself some real questions, because some people know now and they're not changing.
Yeah. Ignorance.
Yeah. You can only say ignorance because the reality is that they know. They know. Like, we all know. And that's what the age of information has done. We're in an age where our parents had an excuse. They didn't have the ability to choose what channel they watched. They were programs. They were programmed, literally. But we have a choice. We're in the age of information where things have been exposed, things have come to light. It's going to get to a point where your mind won't allow you. That's the true battle. You think it's all like, I know, and like, people can keep trying to lie to themselves. The earth's going to remind you. Yeah, you can act like you're in a fairy tale world, like, oh, I've got the city here. Everything around you is going to keep destroying and let you know that, shit, I can't keep playing this game. I can't keep doing this. So, yeah, help, man. You gotta help people. Because it helps you.
100.
Everything's reflected.
100. And you know, when you talking about that really just slaps me into a film that I used to love. I still love it to this day, actually. Pay It Forward. Ever seen it?
Pay It Forward?
Yeah.
No.
Watch it if you haven't watched it. But yeah, it's basically about this little kid who starts this thing called Pay It Forward, and he helps people. Like, he helped someone, and he said to them, like, and they're like, oh, thank you so much. And he was like, what can we do to pay you back? He's like, no, just pay it forward. Right? And then it was like the whole film was basically like those people then paying it forward. And essentially it starts from one, it goes to one more, and then it exponentially just spreads
growing
out. And bro, like, you know, I'm all about helping, and I'm sure, I know you are, and I feel like, you know, helping people and even asking for help, bro. I feel like asking for help at the right times is a strength. Knowing when to ask is a strength in it, and I feel like don't be afraid, innit? Don't be afraid to ask for help, ask for guidance. I can tell you right now, man, like, if you DM SitDown, you email me, bro, I'm here, bro. Like, I'm always here to help, like, and I feel like if I can, I will. And yeah, bro, like I feel like that is a massive thing as well, bro. And it takes us on to your final mantra, which is put the Most High above all matters. We're going to close the book on this one because there's no questions really to ask on this one. This one is straight you, bro.
Yeah. Actually, carrying on from that last thing over to this, it's like, I was even going to say to you, at what point would you stop helping? And this is what I realized why ego is still a big thing for me. And that's why you can't fake this. Like, you're either in or you're out. Because this is why I know I'm in wickedness. Every time I think about help, this gets to a point where self-preservation comes in.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
100.
And when I look at Christ gave everything to the point, like every last blood drop, he gave it. And what I see that even on a spiritual sense is that that's the sort of love the Most High has for us. And that's why I say I put the Most High before anything, because if you love that, that's the sort of love you will give out to every man around you, because you would love them. You know why? Because if you're about to die, you would want someone to try and save your life. You see what I mean? And one thing Christ said when he was on the cross on the tree, however you want to look at it, because the Bible says anyway, I'm not going to get into that, but the main thing with the Most High, with Christ, because he was a manifestation of the Most High, he was, and that's what they say scripturally, the order was God, Christ, man, woman. He was a physical manifestation of that spirit. And that's because he embodied the spirit of love. Do you know what I mean? And that's why he recognized that loving your neighbor as yourself, you kind of fulfill. Like loving God above all and loving your neighbor as yourself, you fulfill all of it. Because when you start to learn things and understand what it means to love, you would want that same energy poured out to you if you were in your deepest depths. When he said he sat down with publicans and sinners, if you were messed up, a sinner, people look at it as someone who is trying to do evil. No, a sinner could just be someone who's caught up in evil. I have to sell drugs. But he knows deep down, okay, cool, I'm making money this way, but I don't really like the lifestyle it's bringing. I don't like the energy it's bringing. But the only people that are safe around me are people who do this. You see what I mean? So if he gets this one brother who steps outside, you know what? How's this brother chilling me, letting me stay at the crib, come to the yacht, like, he knows what I do. He's given up his security, safety for my life. No one showed me that love. My dad wasn't there to show me that love. And if he loved me, and what people forget, this is why you got to even understand your dads. Because it's easier said than done, because some parents have done a lot of evil to their kids. Do you know what I mean? Where you wouldn't even view them as your overseer, because your overseer should be protecting you, not harming you. But this is the level of understanding we have to have, because it goes against what we desire. Because some people desire revenge, but if you desire revenge, everything gets reflected.
Yeah, it hurts, but it hurts more.
It hurts more.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is that, and that's a spiritual thing, because it might not be something that physically gets you, but once it affects that, it's eventually going to affect your physical, maybe in the form of an illness. Maybe not in you getting touched or whatever, but you're sick now. Do you know what I mean? Because you're actually, that spirit is like acid rain. Like I said, water is spirit. You're literally, it might be coming down still, flowing, but it's toxic now. And it manifests into your flesh, because water comes down to earth. That acid rain is going to be chopping up. Like, acid rain is a big thing in regards to like destroying limestone structures of the earth. So that's what it's going to do to your own body. So you embodying any of that energy is bad, and the Most High's energy is all pure. It's light. Light is an expansion energy. It grows. So my whole thing is that when I take it all full circle, a lot of that, I could have used this one mantra as the whole thing, because that's how Christ would use the law. Like, there's bare laws. There was bare laws, but he said, listen, if you love your neighbor as yourself and love God above all, you've embodied the whole law, because you recognize that anything that is good for you should be good for them.
Right.
Because they feel the same way you feel, they drink the same way you drink. That means you literally embody the same spirit. They just can't, they're not in touch with their spirit right now, because they're so far away from it, because they're dehydrated from spirit, either physically or mentally. So that's why you've got to put the Most High Spirit, because he's so gracious. Because knowing full well how I've lived or the things I've done wrong, it's a blessing to still be here. Because some men have been touched for less. Some pure kids have been touched for less. Do you know what I mean? And when you really think about it, even the fact that you have a house to go to, like, that's a blessing. People don't deep it because it's become such a luxury. Like, that's a basic thing. Like, these people got yards. People are more saying, like, if you got chains, whips, that's when you're blessed. But really, like, those are luxuries. When you really have, like, a roof over your head and wake up, like, those accessories make the scene look good. Like I said, you could chop it up in a garage or you can chop it up at the Ritz. Do you know what I mean? You're still chopping it up.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's all about what you can glamorize things. But if that glamorization's gone, are you still having the same vibe? And that's what I said about beauty. Beauty fades. You could have that woman, yeah, cool. When she was young, spring chicken, yeah, it was a vibe. Now she's older and that your everything doesn't wave. We ain't actually got nothing in common. That spirit, that thing that lasts forever, which is her mindset till she dies, not her beauty, that ducks out like, at some point for everyone. But her mindset is what stays forever. If you can have, like, focus on that and knowing that that's the spirit you're going to be dying with, eventually that means your peace isn't going to run out. And like I said, food, nutrient-dense food, you don't even need one good meal that could sustain you the whole day. But what ends up happening now is that people snack on things that are high in sugar and high in salt. So they're always trying to get to that level of completion with the fuel, which is water. But every single thing they're adding to them is stripping water away. So they're just buying more food, more snacks, and thinking by the end of the day why they're depressed, or why they're down, or why they're pondering on certain things. Same way when I be danking, like that whole removal of spirit. It's like, yeah, at some point it's like, when it first happened, because you were already filled with water, them first few times it was like, yeah, it's calm. But it gets to a point where you've been dehydrating so long and it's become the majority now. Like, you're more dry than wet. You'll never get into that point of peace. Now you got mad thoughts going on. You got all these other thoughts coming out now. And you're thinking, rah, like, yeah, I get some good moments. Why are they always met with these other thoughts? Do you know what I mean? Why is it not just those pure ones?
Yeah.
And that goes into the fact that it's not just even the body, but it's the mind, body, and soul. You got to desire that purity, because that's got to be your intention with everything you do. So anything you do end up doing becomes pure. Do you see what I'm saying? But then it will eventually lead you to a pure way of living.
Yeah.
So yeah, Most High above all, man, because he sees all. So you might be looking at this guy like, oh, like, he's a dickhead. You have no idea that he's nursing his grandma who's got cancer or whatever. Like, that's why he's moving like that.
And you're right, man. You know, that final match, it does embody everything that you've said, innit? And as you come to this end of this interview, I ask our guests 3 questions at the end. The first question is there a book or something that you read specifically? You've mentioned the Bible. Okay. But is there even that you can? Is there any other book, even the Bible, you can say that helps, that inspires you?
100%. I will always claim the Bible, and the Bible in its entirety as well, because the Bible we do have. I would recommend the Sefer or the Bible with the Apocrypha, the 1611 King James, because the Apocrypha are some books that were missing, and they explain a lot more in detail. And you got to remember, anything that's incomplete will never give you the full picture. I'm not saying that's even the full books, but those other books would help. But I would say, if I was to add something outside the Bible, there's such a variety, because like I said, the Most High embodies all, and the Most High is in the volume of that book. But when you have stuff like Alkaline Herbal Medicine by Dr. Sebi, that might touch on the physicality. Yeah. I've got stuff about permaculture and water that might touch on what your purpose. But when you embody everything he told you in that book, it talks about even our first job on earth as man was to subdue the earth and be fruitful. Farming is in that book. It embodies the whole thing. You see what I mean? So the Bible will be the first thing to do, but you have to read it with like true understanding, like listen to it and not be offended by it.
Yeah.
Don't let your physical get into it. Just be like, raw, like this God was moving mad, but understand it on the mental thing rather than physical. So yeah, Bible. Sorry.
All good, man.
Yeah.
Needed an explanation, bro.
Yeah.
And a song. Is there a song or anything that you listen to that helps motivate you or gets you into the zone?
Oh yeah. Funny enough. Do you know what's so interesting? Sorry, I know this always end up because I think about things. So it ends up getting a bit long, but one of my one of my brothers, like, because I recognize myself as an Israelite, because that's what the Most High called me, not what man called me. Do you know what I mean? All of our names have been changed. Like Jamaica actually means the land of wood and water. Like when you go into all these names, these are actually Spanish names, Portuguese. They're not who you are. That's what your slave masters called you. Even Ghana, these are new terms. You know what I mean? We haven't always recognized ourselves as these things. So the reason I go by Israelite, one of my brothers who's an Israelite, who recognizes himself as it, is because that's what the Most High says He's chosen people are, the children of light. You see what I mean? And that's the children of love, and that's what He gave them those energies to put out, and that's what we're all meant to be embodying. His music, he's got one song. Well, he's got a few, but he's got one song called I Don't Want to Be a Slave No More. So Nathaniel Shalom, I don't want to be a slave. And he doesn't realize that I see that in a very spiritual way, because like I said, we still talking about slavery physically. But when I say I don't want to be mentally entrapped in my own sin and wickedness, because it's self-hatred. That's what I really mean by I don't want to be enslaved. I don't want to be a slave no more. I don't want to be a slave to my mind no more. I want my mind to bear fruit for me. I want to be joyous. I don't want to be depressed, mentally ill. That's literally what mental health is. It's a lack of spirit. So that song will be for me like definitely a strong song. Yeah, Nathaniel Shalom. I don't want to be a slave. Yeah.
Crazy. The song's going to be in the link below. And finally, your message. Can you look into this camera right here? And your message to the world, bro.
Seek the Most High, man. Like, and when I say seek the Most High, seek true spiritual love. Like, seek that spirit that's gonna add to your body, add to your mind. It's basically that simple. I think that's all we're here to do. So just seek something, seek purity, and that's like the earliest form of who we are. That's the base of who we are. Like, you seek just topical creams and stuff. It doesn't deal with the actual root cause, like bronchitis, pneumonia are causes of cancer. You deal with the cancer, you don't get none of those byproducts. So that's what I mean by seek. Seek the mental first, the spiritual comes first. So if you seek purity there, everything else is blessed. And I'm not saying I'm completely there yet, but the more I've been seeking, the more I've been stripping away certain things, which is helping me see things clearer. And it's making me realize that I don't need to be held to so much of the physical, which is essentially our ego, which is stopping us kind of get to that level of love and purity amongst us. So yeah, man, seek purity, seek love, seek the Most High, man.
Jay Ezza, thank you so much, bro. Appreciate everything.
Listen, it's a blessing for you having me, real talk, seriously. I appreciate it.
It's been amazing having you, bro. This has been Sit Down, we're about to stand up.
Oh.
Love, bro.
Love. Come on.